let's talk about you and talk about the Writer Center, because one thing that fascinated me is you started off taking classes.
I did.
At the Writer Center, and then rose up now to be the executive director. So tell us about that journey and how you pulled that off.
Well, I started taking classes here, and then over the years, I taught and I was on the board. And in 2008, when, you know, the economy was just such a mess, and it's always hard for nonprofits to get funding, but it was virtually impossible at that moment. And so I sort of found myself saying, well, I guess I could do this. Our director had resigned, and we didn't have money to hire a new one or to pay her if she had decided to stay, for that matter. But but I found myself saying, well, I guess I could do that on a volunteer basis for a while. And then I was like, who said that? Because it isn't something I ever thought I was going to do. And it certainly wasn't anything I didn't know anything about managing anything. And there was some reason to believe I shouldn't be managing anything. But as it turned out, I have really enjoyed it. And this will be my 10th year. When we kind of come to the end of this year, it will have been 10 years. And I thought, you know, maybe I'd be here a year or 2 years. But it's been really fun because we have really sort of focused the Writer Center. I think we were trying to do too many things. And, you know, I thought, what do we do really well? We do classes really well, and we do a gathering of writers really well. So what we don't do always so well, it's hard to get audiences for readings and programs like that. And you can spend a lot of time on that when you could be spending time on programs where you can get an audience. So we just kind of did this. We pared things away. And then in terms of funding, we could get funding for outreach programs. And I'm a teacher. I love to teach, and I think that's really important. So we started doing a summer learning program for kids, which we've been doing now for 10 years. We go to 3 sites every summer and work with about 225 to 250 at-risk kids. We have college interns, we have volunteers, and writers are the teachers, which is really cool. And the kids write the stories of their lives, and we publish them in a book, which is amazing, you know, to hold a book, you know, hold a book in your hands with your story in it. They think that's pretty neat. And then we also do memoir projects. We did a memoir project with women at Wheeler, homeless women. We did one with victims of domestic abuse. We did one with American women veterans. So when we do that, with the veterans, for example, Sherry Wagner, who was formerly a poet laureate of Indiana, was the instructor, and those workshops meet for 12 weeks. People write and they revise, and they work toward a collection of stories, which we then publish in an anthology. And it's pretty cool. We just got funding to do a workshop in partnership with Gender Nexus for gender diverse people. So that's going to be happening after the first of the year. So, you know, the Writer's Center is more pared down in some ways than it was before, but it's also expanded and been enriched by the outreach programs that we do. And I really love those. I just finished doing a 12-week program with Asante Children's Theater here in Indianapolis. And that's an amazing organization that works with young people, teaching them theater skills. And they do all these performances. They're really, really good. And they've been around for about 20 years. So we cooked up a project, and it's called Word Dance, a family writing project. So for 12 weeks, we had 21 people representing 8 families, interesting configurations. One sort of traditional family, mom, dad, and a couple kids, several mother-daughter, one married couple, 2 sisters in their 60s. So it was a really interesting age group. And they wrote, and we're now putting together a book of their stories, which I can't wait to see. And that will be ready for their Christmas time holiday performance in the beginning of December. So we're doing all kinds of interesting stuff, and it's fun.
Well, it's got to be just life-changing for these at-risk kids, or for anybody that
it is.
To hold that book in their hands and say, I wrote this, I'm part of the conversation.
Yeah, and particularly with the memoir projects, these people really bond. And I talking to some of the women veterans about it, they talked about how they told and wrote things that they had never shared with anybody, even their husbands or close friends. And they sort of established this little community of trust, and they support one another. And it's really good. It's a helpful thing. And, we know that writing is good for us. Research tells us that writing is healing. Writing brings insight. And, they're using it more and more as a kind of therapy for people trying to sort out their lives for a variety of kinds of reasons.
So what is it that you find most gratifying about the Writing Center? And I'm assuming there's something that keeps you going, that you've been doing it for so long.
I love making the connections. I love that. I really get a kick out of connecting this person with that person. I love, doing the workshops. I love kids. I love the little kids. I just love that. And that I will always love. I just think they're so funny. One kid, when we asked for evaluations, and I was going through them, and I just laughed out loud because it said, "What did you like?" And he said, "I like nothing except for the snakes." And he meant snacks, which, to me just totally made my day. Most of the rest of them did really like it. But, I love that. It's so much fun. And I love watching the light bulb go on in people's eyes when they get it, when they see something about themselves or their lives. I was doing a workshop, memoir workshop someplace. It was I guess it was at Ball State a couple of months ago. And we did this exercise about remembering. And one of the women sort of burst into tears, and she said, "I never realized I had everything wrong about this memory before. It didn't happen where I thought it happened. It didn't happen when I thought it happened." And the ways that you can learn to trigger people into vision, images of memories is it's amazing to watch. So I am fascinated by the creative process. I love to look at the creative process. And I did this book, which I'll give a little plug to, which is called Novel Ideas, which has a little bit of front matter about writing novels, but it also has, the best part are these interviews with wonderful novelists who talk about how they work. I mean, they're not talking about the usual things they talk about. They're talking about where that novel came from and how it evolved and how it was revised and how they generally revise. So one thing I love about the Writer's Center is I just get to watch all these people in various stages of the creative writing and observe how they manage it and how they don't manage it. And sometimes get them jump started, so that they can move on or get started or whatever. I get a kick out of it. I love to teach. So I love that about the Writer's Center. It also eats up an awful lot of my time and energy. So I wish that it weren't what I wish is that days were longer, because then I could, if I could have 48 hours, that would be cool, because I would have time for everything. But then I'd fill those up, wouldn't I? So. Yeah.
Oh, if we had 48 hours, I'd probably spend 24 hours diligently working, but then like 12 hours at least is just going to get wasted on PlayStation.
Well, I can always find, I'm not a good relaxer. I have never learned how to relax. One of the reasons I like to go on road trips with my husband is that it's really the only place. I can't go anywhere if I'm in the car, right? So I sit there and I breathe and I read or I knit or whatever. But relaxing is not good. I just don't know how to do it. So I'm always doing something. Or thinking I should do something anyway.
Well, as a beneficiary of the Indiana Writers Center, I guess that I'll just go ahead and register my pleasure that you,
there you go.
That you can't relax, that it continues to benefit all of us. Work harder. No, I should take a moment and thank you sincerely for inviting me to teach at the Indiana Writers Center, because it's been just one of the most exciting things that I've done for my writing, is because I'm now leading my third workshop. Yeah. And getting these folks that are where I was earlier in my writing career and kind of working with them on writing has taught me more about my writing. When I hear them parrot excuses for why they can't write, I hear a little bit of myself like, oh, yeah. I'm you. I'm so glad I can tell you why not to do that, because now I can tell me.
Yeah, you learn. I mean, I would find, especially with the high school kids, I would have to think, now, they don't get this, right? They don't, I would say, that sentence is not clear. I remember this moment. And the kid just didn't get what I was trying to say to him. And so I said to him, surprising myself, it's like fractions. It's like, when you get to the least common denominator, there's no place else you can go. And when a sentence is clear, it can only mean one thing. And he was like, oh, and I was like, oh, and those kinds of things that you learn, or those insights that come to you as you're teaching. I just love those moments. I think it's really, really fun.
Well,
and I will also add that everybody loves the classes.
Left brain concept. I'm just laughing that you went to math to explain a left brain concept.
I know. Believe me, that's very amusing to me too. I was very surprised when I said it. But so we love to have good teachers, and your classes have gotten great evaluations. So if there's anybody out there thinking about taking a class,
Sarah Schmidt and Alexander, come teach a class.
There you go. Yeah.
So where can Hoosiers that have seen us talk about Vonnegut now and the Indiana Writers Center, and they're all fired up about Indiana literature, how can they best support the Indiana Writers Center?
Money.
Sure. Where can they go to provide that money?
You can go to our website, www.indianawriters.org, and there's a donation button. And you know what? One of the things that meant the most to me when I first started doing this, we were, really struggling at that first year. And we sent out a letter to our people, members and whatever. And we got a boatload of really small donations, $10, $20, $25. And people think, well, that's no big deal. But actually, it is a big deal. So, if you can help that way, we really need it, and we really appreciate it. You can get project grants, but it's very difficult to get grants for operating expenses. And we make money from our programs and all that, but it's a struggle. So any help that you can give, and you can share that information with others. You can sign up to our Facebook page, and you can share the things that are going on at the Writers Center. That's really helpful when people spread the word about our programs. And just talk us up. If anybody's interested in writing, tell them to come and talk to us. I think one of the things we do that is very important is that we offer free advice to people about, publishing. And I mean, we can't really help you get your book published, walk you through the steps. But there are lots of scams out there these days. And you as a beginning writer, you really need to be sure of what you're doing before you put any money out there or get your heart set on something. And so, we know about that stuff. And we're always glad to help people in any way that we can. You can become a member of the Indiana Writers Center, which is also, of course, helpful to us. And it also gives you a discount on classes. There's also a discounted membership for students and seniors and veterans and teachers, which is very reasonable. And so, yeah, just become involved and tell other people about us. If you have a rich uncle, send him our way.
If you're in Indiana and you're watching this, you like Barbara Shoup, you like me, we're both at the Indiana Writers Center. Come out, become a member.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What's in the horizon? What's the future for the Indiana Writers Center hold, do you think?
Well, 2019 is our 40th anniversary and my 10th anniversary. So it's kind of a big year for us. We made the move, as I said earlier, to Circle Center Industrial Complex, which has been great for us. People seem to really like it. We have much nicer space than we used to have. So we'll be spending the year celebrating that anniversary and hoping that will help us with our fundraising. Jim Powell, who was the founder of the Writers Center in 1979, we're going to be publishing a book of his short stories, which we're pretty excited about as part of that celebration. And, we're in the process of planning. We'll have our gathering of writers, as we always do, and that's always a great day. That's March 9th on Saturday, and it is at the Indiana State Library, which is just a gorgeous place to have it. It's just very inspiring. So I hope the future is good. I know that we get great evaluations on all of our programs. I know that the work we do really matters. And it depends on people, being willing to recognize that and to support us. We need you guys, we need help from those who love books and writing.
I'm excited to come out and support Jim Powell. He was one of my first writing teachers.
Oh, yeah.
And my wife and I still talk about, he threw a party at the end of one of the semesters And she wasn't my wife then, she was my girlfriend. And we went and we ran out of booze relatively early because we were all broke college students and
Sure.
we hadn't brought much. And Jim Powell, in addition to being an amazing writer, is an amazing party host because I've never seen anybody more resourceful in just pulling out bottles of booze
He used
from
to
around the house.
I've been to some of those myself. Yeah. Yeah. He's a good guy, and I'm really thrilled to be able to do. They're wonderful stories. He hadn't written for a long time and kind of got back to it maybe about 5 years ago. And I just think we're so lucky to be able to do that as part of, our 40th year. It's kind of a cool thing, I think. So, yeah.
Well, he is a great writer, great instructor. I still think of things he said to me about my writing that unfortunately I'm still struggling with.
Yeah.
And I can think back to what he told me on how to fix it. And if I just listened to Jim Powell the first time,
I
wouldn't be having this issue again.
He's a terrific critic. He's a very good reader. So, yeah, you were lucky to have him.
So